Welcome back, children of the nightmare. Tonight, you are not alone. Shadows gather, cold fingers brush the nape of your neck, and somewhere deep in the dark, something is watching. This is Scary Moo, and you're about to experience the most terrifying moments ever to haunt our channel. If you hear a whisper behind you, don't turn around. Just keep watching. Most people believe their homes are sanctuaries, safe from the unspeakable things lurking in the night. But what if your home was the very place where the darkness chose to wake? The footage we'll discuss tonight is not for the faint of heart. These are the moments that left even the bravest souls trembling, and some viewers swore that after watching, they never slept the same way again. Before you proceed, ask yourself, are you ready to invite the unknown into your life? Because once you know what's out there, there's no going back. Let's start with a tale that begins not in an ancient forest or an abandoned hospital, but in the most familiar of places, a suburban kitchen. The story comes from a family tormented by an unseen force. Every night at precisely 2:13 a.m., the temperature would plummet, and the scent of rotting earth would fill the air. They tried to ignore it, but then the banging started. Cupboards slamming open, utensils clattering to the floor, and in the reflection of the oven door, a face that wasn't theirs. When they tried to film it, what they captured was worse than any ghost story. A pale, elongated hand reaching from beneath the sink, clawing at the floor, trying to drag itself into the world of the living. The footage ends abruptly, but those who have watched it say the fear lingers long after the screen goes black. Why do some places seem to attract such malicious forces? Paranormal experts speculate it's not the house, but the people inside it. Desperation, grief, or rage can act as a beacon, calling forth something that should never answer. But sometimes, even the most ordinary places can become gateways to horror. Let me take you to another infamous case, one that left seasoned investigators too terrified to return. A group of teenagers dared each other to spend the night in the ruins of the old Millfield Church. It was supposed to be a harmless prank, but what they recorded would later be described as the shriek of a soul in torment. The audio captured a guttural, inhuman cry, followed by the sound of footsteps crunching on broken glass. In the morning, they found deep gouges in the ancient stone walls, marks that looked like desperate clawing from the inside. No human could have made them. Since then, locals report seeing a shadowy figure lurking among the gravestones, its presence heralded by the faint echo of that terrible scream. Some of the most chilling encounters stem not from objects, but people, those who unknowingly carry darkness with them. There is the story of the woman who found an old music box at a flea market. She brought it home, enchanted by its delicate melody. But at night, the box would play on its own, the sweet tune warping into a discordant lullaby. Then the dreams began. Night after night, she saw a little girl in a tattered dress, face obscured by matted hair, standing at the foot of her bed. The woman tried to get rid of the box, but it would always return, on her doorstep, in her car, even inside the refrigerator. The final footage shows her pleading with the camera, eyes wild with terror, as the music box plays one last time. She vanished that night, leaving only the box behind. Objects with a history of violence or sorrow can become conduits for unspeakable things. Paranormal investigators call them vessels, and they warn, never bring home something you don't fully understand. But what about places that seem to exist solely to torment the living? In the heart of the city stands the Whitmore Hotel, a building abandoned after a series of inexplicable deaths. Urban explorers, drawn by the hotel's sinister reputation, speak of corridors that twist and shift, rooms that appear and disappear, and something that crawls across the ceilings, just out of sight. One group left a recorder running overnight, capturing hours of silence, except for the unmistakable sound of heavy breathing, right next to the microphone, when no one was in the room. The explorers never spoke of what else they saw, but one of them later confided to friends, the walls bleed, and the darkness has teeth. Some say true horror lies not in what is seen, but what is felt. That primal, gut-churning sensation that something is terribly, terribly wrong. A young couple, new to their apartment, began experiencing this very feeling. Doors would unlock by themselves. Their cat refused to enter certain rooms, arching its back and hissing at empty corners. One night, as they watched TV, the screen flickered, and for a brief moment, the reflection showed not themselves, but a figure standing behind them, tall, thin, with eyes like burning coals. They moved out the next day, leaving behind only a hastily written note. Do not stay after dark. It waits. Horror is not confined to haunted houses or cursed objects. Sometimes, the terror comes from beneath the earth itself. In the remote town of Greystone, locals have always feared the old mineshaft. They say the earth there is hungry, and those who listen carefully can hear voices echoing up from the darkness below. One group of thrill-seekers decided to investigate, descending into the shaft with only headlamps and shaky bravado. Their audio recordings captured muffled whispers, pleading for help. Then, screaming, the group emerged hours later, pale and shaking, unable to speak of what they'd seen. One member's hair had turned stark white. The town sealed the shaft the next day, but late at night, some still hear the voices, begging, crying, and sometimes laughing. Tales of haunted woods are as old as the hills themselves. There are places where even seasoned hikers refuse to tread. In the Black Hollow Forest, travelers report losing time, emerging hours or even days later, with no memory of where they went. One camper, determined to document the phenomenon, set up a tent and left a recorder running. The recording captured the sound of footsteps circling the tent, growing faster and more erratic as the night wore on. At one point, a raspy voice whispers, "Let me in." In the morning, the tent was empty. No trace of the camper was ever found, except for the recorder, still playing with that voice on endless loop. Sometimes, the terror follows us into our dreams. Sleep paralysis is a medical term, but those who have suffered it know it as something far more sinister. A young man, plagued by nightmares, set up a camera to document his episodes. What he captured was chilling. As he lay frozen in bed, the blankets began to move, as if something unseen was crawling beneath them. A low, guttural growl filled the room, and a shape, darker than the darkness, rose from the foot of the bed. He woke with bruises around his ankles, as if someone, or something, had tried to drag him away. He moved, but the nightmares followed, growing more vivid and violent, until he could no longer distinguish waking from sleeping. Not all haunted places are old and abandoned. Sometimes, the darkness finds its way into the newest buildings, drawn by tragedy or malice. A group of friends moved into a brand new apartment complex, eager for a fresh start. But almost immediately, strange things began to happen. Faucets turned themselves on, lights flickered, and the air was thick with the scent of burning hair. Then came the knocking, always at 3:15 a.m., always from inside the walls. When they finally confronted the source, tearing open the drywall, they found nothing but a message scrawled in what looked like blood: "I never left." The friends moved out, but the knocking continues for every new tenant, a reminder that some horrors cannot be evicted. There are those who seek out terror, convinced that they are immune. But even the bravest can be broken. Consider the urban legend of the Reflection Man. They say if you stare into a mirror at midnight and whisper his name, you'll see him standing behind you. Most dismiss it as a childish dare, but one skeptic decided to prove it wrong. He set up a camera, recited the chant, and waited. Nothing happened, until he reviewed the footage. For a split second, a gaunt, grinning figure appeared in the mirror, its eyes locked onto his. After that night, he refused to have mirrors in his home. He claimed he could feel eyes on him whenever he passed a reflective surface. Weeks later, neighbors found his apartment empty. Every mirror shattered, the word, "mine," etched into the walls. What is it about the darkness that draws us in? Is it curiosity, or a deeper, unspoken desire to glimpse the unknown? For some, the urge is irresistible. At an abandoned asylum on the edge of town, a group of paranormal investigators set out to document evidence of the afterlife. They mocked the stories of nurses who never left, of patients whose cries still echo in the halls. But as night fell, their bravado faded. Doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. Their equipment malfunctioned, and the temperature dropped to bone-chilling cold. Whispers filled the air, and shadowy figures darted just beyond the reach of their flashlights. By morning, they were found huddled together, eyes wide with terror, unable to speak of what they'd seen. One of them, months later, broke his silence, whispering, "They're still there. They follow me. I can't sleep. I can't get away." Children, too, are not spared from the horrors that seep into our world. One family reported their young daughter speaking to someone they couldn't see. She called her friend, Mr. Gray, describing him as tall, thin, and wearing a hat that hid his face. At first, her parents dismissed it as imagination, until they noticed bruises on her arms and scratches on her windowsill. One night, desperate, they set up a baby monitor. The recording captured the girl whispering, "I can't let you in." Mommy said no. Then, a voice, cold, inhuman, replied, "But I'm already here." The family moved out, but their daughter still wakes screaming, insisting Mr. Gray is waiting for her in the shadows. Technology has only made it easier for the darkness to reach us. Smart speakers, security cameras, and even phones have all become conduits for the unexplained. One recent case involved a family whose home assistant began turning itself on in the middle of the night, playing recordings they never made. Whispers, crying, and at times, a low chant in a language nobody could identify. When they tried to reset the device, it laughed, a sound described as not human. They smashed the speaker, but every night at the same time, their phones would ring, displaying only a single word: listen. Sometimes, the most horrifying encounters leave no physical evidence, only the certainty that what you experienced was real. One man, driving late at night, saw a woman in white standing by the side of the road. He stopped to help, but as she approached, her face shifted, melting into a mass of writhing shadows. He floored the accelerator and never looked back, but for weeks afterward, he found white dresses hanging in his closet, stained with something dark and sticky. To this day, he refuses to drive at night, convinced the woman is still waiting for him to stop. Animals, too, sense what we cannot. In one disturbing case, a family dog began barking at an empty corner of the living room. Night after night, the barking grew more frantic, until one evening the dog refused to enter the house at all. That night, the family heard scratching at the windows, accompanied by a deep, rattling breath. In the morning, muddy footprints, far too large to be human, led from the window to the woods. The dog was never seen again. There are places in every town, every city, that people instinctively avoid. The abandoned playground where laughter turns to screams after dark. The overgrown cemetery where the statues seem to watch your every move. The forgotten stretch of road where cars vanish without a trace. These are the liminal spaces where our world and the next overlap, where the rules no longer apply. But perhaps the most terrifying thought of all is this: what if you are being watched right now? What if, as you listen to these stories, something is listening to you? Horror doesn't stay trapped in old buildings or cursed objects. It follows us, clings to us, and waits for the perfect moment to reveal itself. Tonight, as you turn off your screen and settle into bed, remember, the darkness is never empty. The things you can't see are always watching, always waiting, always hungry. If you enjoyed tonight's descent into terror, don't forget to subscribe to Scary Moo for more true horror stories, chilling encounters, and unexplained phenomena. Hit that like button if you're brave enough, and share your own haunted experiences in the comments below. But be careful, sometimes when you speak of the darkness, it listens. Sleep well, if you can. And remember, on Scary Moo, the nightmare never ends.